Deleted session, April 24, 1981. Good evening. Now, one point I wanted to make for the record. The sinful self, however, no longer identifies with the Roman Catholic Church, as once it did, and in years past it also became dissatisfied with that framework. It represents what is left over of Ruber's questioning and doubts. Those unresolved areas that were emotionally charged not only because of, say, church doctrine, but intensified because of emotional episodes with his mother or other such issues. In that regard, the sinful self-then is not pleased with its situation. It did not feel it was being given any satisfactory recognition, however. The main issues are the ones already given. You should discuss them together in the light of the sessions, and with understanding. They are involved with the importance and the nature and the reliability of revelationary material, and as it is related to a literal true and false interpretation. The sinful self wants to be sure it is not lying, because it feels that according to its definitions, it is naturally given to such behavior, being bad, sinful, etc. The entire false prophet syndrome comes from those feelings. To a lesser degree, the same question applies to any highly inspirational creativity, which again has always been questioned by the church organization, which has been firmly against even, say, individual interpretation of the Bible itself. The idea that our work might set up a new church, therefore, is a very touchy one. These are all matters to be satisfactorily discussed and explained and understood, however, once it is understood that such questions are legitimate ones, and not foolish worries to be just thrust aside. They actually represent very complex matters, and complex ones to explain, for in themselves they contain the seeds of material necessary for any understanding of the nature of reality and beliefs. Religion itself, of course, will hardly stand the test. Many issues once connected to that sinful self-core of belief have long ago either been satisfied, reconciled, or otherwise changed. The feelings of panic represent any child's fear of being abandoned by its parents or community if it is too rebellious. Those feelings of panic are the ones that he has repressed, of course. They often represent humiliations, most often at his mother's hands, humiliations that convinced him that he was indeed unlovable and bound for trouble. The feelings themselves are hardly unmanageable, however, and can be coped with. While we are dealing with such material, you should definitely try to be a bit more indulgent with yourself, generally speaking. Ruber in particular. Make love more if the opportunity arises. See occasional visitors or whatever. I know you know this, but do not concentrate upon the problem. You undo half of your good work when you do. You narrow your scope of interest. Ralph asked, "Can I say something?" They said, "You may." Ralph said, "It seems Jane can do little else." They said, "Today was a day in which feelings became conscious and pervaded the emotional air, as if the mustiness from a suddenly opened closet door spread out into the living room. That kind of situation will soon be over, for it is a reaction, quite natural, on the first reopening of that door into past feelings. Before, the feelings were present, but completely camouflaged into the bodily symptoms. For a short period of time, it may seem that on occasion both symptoms and mood are intensified. That will also vanish and be of brief duration. In the last period of time, Robert has also produced his material on speaker manuscripts, for example, when his mood has been on an entirely different nature, when he was immersed in creativity, and he felt a sense of accomplishment. The same applies to the half-dozen or so small paintings. Rob said, "We were wondering what the sinful self might think about work on those speaker manuscripts." They said, "Old hobbies are involved, of course. The part about not concentrating upon the problem, however, is still paramount. And so is the necessity of seeing the situation in its larger framework. I mean that literally. In the face of Rupert's background, he has managed as well as he has, and that in the other areas of life, you are doing far better than you habitually give yourselves credit for. Those areas have a tendency to be neglected in your minds, as if next to Rupert's problems, they are relatively insignificant. But you would not find them so insignificant if they represented their own vital problem areas. Give us a moment. I realize that you can only do so much, Joseph, but on a particularly troublesome night. If you would sit up, talk with Ruber for perhaps 10 or 15 minutes, you could both shorten troublesome episodes to a considerable degree. This last period was intensified also, since both of you were in the same mood at the same time. You must remember that the entire problem does indeed exist in a larger personal framework in which life and energy are abundantly and freely given. All parts of Rupert's personality are indeed working with the material and working toward reconciliations. I will on another evening reply to your troublesome question concerning those issues where my interpretation of Rupert's situation certainly often does not correlate with your own. I must add most probably still another such instance by telling you that the condition of Rupert's legs is indeed therapeutic. It is also true that he is frightened, that is not so, and that the fear itself makes the situation more unpleasant than otherwise need be. Under certain conditions, even pleasant, so-called body experiences can be experienced as painful, and indeed vice versa. Rupert's situation is not fated to get worse. He is not temperamentally trapped. You have each of late allowed yourselves to see the situation in its cruelest light, and that, of course, is part of the problem. I realize this is easy to say from my viewpoint, and that your expectations must certainly be based somewhat upon current experience, yet you have far more leeway there than you use. End of session. Rob asked, "Question?" They said, "I am letting that go for this evening." Rob said, "Okay." They said, "The situation can easily begin to improve, whether or not I know consciously how this is being done. Use that suggestion in the meantime with a light hand." Rob said, "Okay." They said a fond good evening. Rob said, "Thank you," said good night.